what is going on, everybody? Good Saturday morning. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Good morning to my special guest, Jeff. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
All right, and my camera, you're going to stop, right? Okay, there we go. I got one of those, like, smart AI cameras, and that thing is always constantly moving on me. Drives me nuts. And of course I look weird and I'm doing, this stuff with my hand gestures the whole time. People are like, what are you doing? I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But Maverick, thank you very much for the follows. We get started here this morning. Ray, of course, as you guys can see, he's not here. He's at Disneyland. He decided, ladies and gentlemen, that instead of coming on the show, that he was going to go and have a family day. Like, that's all important. But it is. And Ray, if you're out there and you're watching, dude, I appreciate you very, very much. Enjoy the time with the family. It goes by fast and it never comes around again. So it's important to enjoy those moments while we can. And of course, today, what we're going to be talking about is social media and all things PickAx with Jeff Dornik, who's the president and CEO of PickAx. And I really, really have to say, I appreciate you coming on, because we've been trying to do this probably for the last 6 months or so.
I know, right? It's been a bit.
Yeah, hi, but you can come around here and say hi if you want. My son wants to come and say hi now. Now that I'm live, he wants to come.
We have a new grill.
Oh, do you have a new grill? That's awesome, bud.
It's smoke.
I know. Go have fun, okay? And we'll go to lunch in a little bit. You need some help?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he needs help getting on the phone here, everybody. So give me 2 seconds.
Hi, friend.
But
so we're gonna go make some more stuff.
Okay, go make some more stuff, but I love you.
Hey, Manny.
It's a juggle to do this sometimes, especially when you do it from home. And of course, I know for you probably have almost kind of the same thing, right? Because you do it from home there.
Oh yeah. No, and my office right now is right next door to our 3-year-old's bedroom. Mm-hmm. And so, which makes things interesting when it's like a super early show or a super late show. And so I'm like, I'm probably gonna have to move my office down to the garage or something.
Yeah. What's up? Good morning, Chavez. Good to see you. You're a legend yourself, sir. Appreciate you. So what we wanted to kind of do, you guys, PickAx, if you guys have not heard, is a new social media platform that is growing in popularity and that seems to really kind of be taking off. And I kind of wanted to really pick your brain, Jeff, about, why you started PickAx, what was kind of like the idea behind that, and why in this day and age is social media so important?
Yeah, well, what really, it started from seeing the writing on the wall with Elon Musk buying Twitter and turning into X. And I saw what was happening, and he was positioning it as a free speech platform. But then you start looking at the terms of service. You look at who he hired as a CEO. You look at like the moves that he was making, and it wasn't one that was going to promote actual freedom of speech. It was freer speech. But then they come out with this policy of freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which basically means you can say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean we're going to let anybody actually see it. And that's like literally, you go to their terms of service right now, that phrase, freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, is in there. And so for me, I'm looking at that and I was like, this is not going to be good. It's maybe better from like you're not going to get banned at the same rate that we used to be. I was permanently kicked off of Twitter back in the Dorsey days for talking about COVID one too many times. And so going through that and then seeing the writing on the wall with Elon, I disagree with his worldview, his outlook, where he's trying to take X. To me, it's a big centralization of power. That everything comes down to AI, robots, kind of control of everything. And so what it started as, okay, look, can we just build a good free speech platform that is human-centered? And then as time goes on, it even morphed away from being free speech. Obviously, we're still free speech, but to me, it's more implied. Like like that's not our hook. Our hook is we're not doing all the algorithmic manipulations that you get, because that's what's dividing us. That's what's getting people to self-censor. That's what's artificially limiting people's ability to actually promote their content, whether it's somebody in politics, a gamer, somebody in the sports industry. It doesn't matter. If you don't catch the algorithm, you're not going to get seen. And if you post an outbound link, you get dinged in the algorithm, so you can't really promote your Rumble channel, you can't promote your YouTube channel, you can't promote Spotify, you can't promote anything except what's on there. And then you start talking to friends of mine that they used to make a lot of money on social media, and now they're making $500, $800. They can't live full time on that in a way that they used to be able to, and it's because of the way that they've structured everything within these social media platforms. So I decided, well, why don't we just build something out that is free speech, it's human-centered, we're not doing all the algorithmic manipulations, and we're going to help content creators to be able to promote their content. You'll eventually be able to build email lists and send out email newsletters and all that kind of stuff, and then help you to be more effective at monetizing your content. Because I figure if we can get people paid and we can do that, then they can justify taking more time to create quality content, whether it's a reporter or a gamer or somebody in any industry. They can actually take the time to kind of perfect their craft and get better at what they're doing. So that's really what's kind of behind a lot of the development of PickAx as we've been going with that.
Yeah, it's been really cool to watch it kind of grow. And of course, now you've got the mobile app finally, which is out in beta. You guys are about ready to release it, I think, next month, right? I know you've been talking about that. And it's weird kind of the way that X kind of is now. I still think of it as Twitter. Really, I think anybody who's been on there for a long time probably does. But, with Elon coming along and joking about buying it, and then he buys it, and then we get a little bit more freedom there, but it's not really quite freedom. You're still kind of bound to the algorithms and stuff like that of the platform. It really does feel a lot of times that you get kind of buried there unless somehow you kind of toe the line. But with PickAx, you guys kind of went like a different route altogether. Why did you decide to do that rather than, going like an algorithmic kind of a route?
Yeah, well, because the thing is that looking at it strictly from a like a speech perspective, is that what's happening with the algorithms is that the algorithms are dividing us and putting us into little silos and echo chambers, and then that's how our country has become so radicalized, in my opinion, is that you're never actually being challenged with an actual opposing view. You're only hearing you're basically preaching to the choir. Or if you hear something that is from an opposing point of view, it's something inflammatory that's going to cause a lot of ruckus, get a lot of engagement, and all that kind of stuff. And that's the way that the algorithms work. The algorithms know, and they're programmed in order to create chaos to a certain degree. Why? Because chaos makes them money. So for us, I decided, like, I don't want to go the AI route. We're not going to collect everybody's data. The end game is not AI. If you look at X, and this is just like a side note, if you look at X, Elon Musk, and a lot of people don't know this, Elon Musk sold X recently, and he sold it to his other company, XAI. So now X is a subsidiary of the artificial intelligence company. Why? Because X is the data collection for XAI. So everything that they're doing is funneling it through for that perspective. So when I was looking at, okay, how are we going to do our news feed and our algorithms, I decided, okay, let's craft this in a way that the people are the algorithm. We're not using AI in order to guess, based on topic or theme or what our Overton window. It's that you're going to decide what trends you're going to. So if you follow somebody, they're going to show up in your news feed. We're not going to be, putting people into your news feed that you don't follow, with the exception that if somebody that you follow, it comments on somebody else's post, that post will now show up in your newsfeed and you'll see their comment along with it. So the way that you're going to be exposed to new people is not through our algorithm picking winners and losers and saying, oh, you should see this post or this post, and here's a recommended post. It's going to be the people that you follow, who they engage with. And so now that's like 2 degrees of separation. Now all of a sudden we're kind of like connecting people based upon your connections. So now it becomes a lot more organic and kind of the way that social media was intended to be, not what it's morphed into.
Yeah, because I remember MySpace days. MySpace was kind of MySpace felt very organic to a degree, I think. Long before, I don't even know if there was algorithms back in MySpace days at all. There was definitely HTML. You could go in there and like make a fancy smancy, social kind of a thing there. But good morning, Damsis. Good to see you. Good morning, John, as well. And it's kind of weird to see like how far like all of social media has kind of morphed. Because I remember doing like Stickum. Stickum was kind of like the first video streaming kind of service. I did that for years when I was doing my radio stuff. And then it went kind of from that to like, Facebook, and then like, Twitter with Dorsey. And then, the one thing that drives me crazy about social media is just how people are very tribal. Now, I think there's a lot of different things that kind of give into that, for example, like socialism, communism, stuff like that. They're very tribal in kind of the way that they approach things, Marxism too, as well, which is, they're all really the kind of the same thing, just different sides of the same coin. But it's been really cool to kind of see you kind of build up and kind of the hype that you got behind it. I know that you've done a lot of stuff here on Rumble. Not only does Jeff have his own talk show here on Rumble, which you guys can find the links down below, also to his PickAx as well. But what made you kind of decide to not only do PickAx itself for social media, but you also do your own show here on Rumble? What's kind of the purpose behind that?
Well, so I've been hosting shows since probably 2017 or 2018, and I started off in like the theology space, talking to pastors and theologians, and then 2020 hit, and I ended up starting a political podcast network, and I had the honor to interview a lot of amazing people, and some people I've been disappointed in, like Kash Patel, and different people like that. But it's been fun because all I do is just pick people's brains. And it used to be that I would play the political games, and I'd, it's like, get your zingers in there, and, figure out, how to beat the other side. And then it's really interesting. I went through this kind of transformation when I didn't endorse Trump for president, and I ended up backing RFK Jr. And I got a lot of crap from it from my crowd. And kind of for a little while, kind of blackballed out of a lot of the shows that I used to go on and all that kind of stuff. But it was interesting because through that experience, I feel like my mindset changed to where I'm like, this isn't a two-team sport, and a lot of times we get pushed into these two teams, and then what ends up happening is the truth is actually somewhere in the middle, or it's this third option. And so for me, I've kind of backed away from that two-team sport mentality. And I think that's led to where I'm doing with my show now, which is like literally, I don't care as much about the politics of stuff. What I care about is your worldview. I care about what you believe. And so let's actually deal with that, and then we'll let everything else kind of play out how it is, because you as an individual have the right to vote and say whatever you want and have whatever opinion you want. So let's deal with like, what's our worldview? What do we believe? Why do we believe it? And so when I have conversations now on my show, it's much more about that than it is like the politics, even though I'm interviewing the people still kind of in the political realm. It's just a different mentality. So that's kind of why I kept doing the show, even as I'm developing and growing PickAx, is because that's the kind of mentality that I want within the PickAx community as well, is like, let's not be like all the rest of the platforms and just constantly posting rage bait and divisive rhetoric and what. I'm like, why don't we get into the nuance? And that's why we went with some of the long form content, with like being able to write articles within the platform, leaning heavily into like the Rumble integration and all that, is because like I want to bring back nuance to the conversation, and it's okay if you disagree. And what's been fun is that I feel like a lot of the people that are on PickAx are kind of buying into that vision a bit, and to where there's disagreements all the time, but people don't hate each other. Like very rarely am I seeing the inflammatory attacks and like all that kind of stuff that you see on places like X and all that, because people are like, oh, you disagree? Well, here's my opinion, blah, 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 blah. It's like, that part of it's kind of fun,
Yeah, and I think that because it feels that way too, like on Rumble a lot of times too as well. Like Rumble, the one thing that I appreciate about being on Rumble, one, of course, if you don't like somebody, you guys just block them, move on with your life. That's all you got to. That's what used to happen. Yeah. Back in the day, like in the 80s when I grew up and stuff like that, and in the 90s, if you didn't like somebody, you just stopped talking to them. That's all you got to do. Move on with your life. You don't have to try to destroy them. You don't have to try to take away their job. Any of those kind of things that we see today, which is, cancel culture, just absolutely makes me mad. Black Fox, who's a friend of mine and a streamer here on Rumble, he posted on X, he had some organization that basically dropped him because he went to a Charlie Kirk vigil.
Yeah.
They searched through his stuff and they're like, well, you went to that. And I was like, well, dude, the guy got murdered live on on video in front of his family and in front of fans and stuff. And it's like, it feels very much like everything is so divided, like you said, tribal. And it's crazy how we've gotten kind of to this point. And I think that doing a show like what you do, where you just bring people on to talk, that kind of is where the tires meet the road, or rubber meets the road, as it were, right? Because if you really sit down with somebody that disagrees with you, you're gonna find that there's a lot of things that you guys do agree on, and maybe there's a way there that you can come together and you can talk about things, kind of realistically and kind of logically, and not quite so crazy. With you doing your talk show and stuff as a creator, it's kind of weird. Did you see yourself doing this like, years ago, where you're like, oh, this is like where I want to be? Or was it just kind of like, well, it just needs to happen, and so I'm just going to go ahead and step in.
No, I never saw myself doing any of this. Like when 2020 happened, I was actually the VP of operations for an advertising agency out in New York. And then they let everybody go that wasn't actively working on a campaign. And because I wasn't like in the advertising department, I was operations. Well, you can't have an office, so how do you do operations? So I got let go, and then that's really what led to getting into starting the podcast network, Freedom First Network. And it's really interesting because as a Christian, a lot of times you don't like you go through experiences and you're like, why is this happening? But then you see why God had that happen,
Mm-hmm.
looking into the past, and it's like if I didn't have that specific job, and I was working remote. Like I was still living in California, but I was running, the operations, for an office that was in New York. And like if I was working for a company that was in a different state, maybe Florida or something like that, that didn't lock down, I probably wouldn't have lost my job, and I probably never would have gotten into politics, and I never would have started the network, and I never would have been banned on X or Twitter, and then I never would have started PickAx. So you look back and like you see these moments, and you're like, if that didn't happen, this wouldn't happen. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting when you kind of go through that, because again, like you don't really see God's hand working through your life until it might be a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and you look back, you're like, now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think that there's a lot of experiences that kind of led to this. And I had an opportunity to pitch it to an investor, and I got PickAx funded, and then I got a phenomenal dev team, and everything kind of just fell into place. And I look at things as the CEO of the platform and of the company, but I'm looking at it, and I think that this is what separates us a bit from a lot of the other social media platforms. The other platform in general are led by techies, and I'm not a techie. I understand technology enough to understand kind of what you can do, what you can't do, like all that kind of stuff. But I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer, I'm not any of that kind of stuff. I'm looking at it from the creator perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because like I've seen what works and what doesn't work as a content creator myself. So then I'm looking at, okay, now how do I implement this in a way that I would want in a social media platform, as somebody who's I've written, I've been a commentator, I've hosted a show, I've run a network, I've done all these things. It's like, okay, what would I want in a platform? And then that's kind of how PickAx was designed. Was I'm looking at this from the user standpoint, from the creator standpoint, and then I go to my phenomenal dev team who's great, and I'm like, I'd like to do this. Can we do this? Yeah, sure. It'll take this much time. Okay, let's do it. That's kind of how PickAx has morphed.
Yeah, and I think that that's what you can really kind of feel that on the platform, that it's something that's going to be very much creator focused, and I enjoy that. Giving everybody a voice. Of course, you guys can get in. It's still relatively easy to get verified right now, I believe. Right? You guys are going to change it up once it gets released and stuff. And we do have one kind of comment, kind of question by Galactic Gaming Dad. We also call him Red. He says that he's got an account over on PickAx, but it's not really that VTuber friendly, considering we mostly keep our privacy, and you need to give out some private info to live stream there. Can you kind of, fill in like why you guys kind of require that in order to be, verified and such like that on PickAx?
Yeah, so the verification process is basically our way of being the most human-centered platform out there, right? And so what's happened, like on X, Elon Musk, he came out with his, you pay for your blue check mark, right? And initially he said, this is how we combat bots. Okay, cool. They do it, and then they start verifying bots, because people are willing to pay $8 a month in order to get that blue check mark, and then it can be an anonymous account, it can be, all that kind of stuff. So for us, I don't want bots taking over. I don't want intelligence agencies that run bot farms out of Africa and Central America and all that kind of stuff to take over the platform like they do X and Instagram and YouTube and all these other platforms. So what we do is we have a verification process to where if you see a blue check mark, that person is who they say they are. Initially it was going to be you have to have your actual name on there. Now what we do is it either needs to be your name that's matches with your ID, or it would have to be your it would have to be, like a streaming handle or like a, brand or something like that. And if we can verify it by checking out the domain or the URL or your Rumble channel or whatever it is, we'll get it verified. And so, we kind of go through that process, but that way, it's like if you're on PickAx and you see the account, Vaping Gamers, and there's a blue check mark there or a gold check mark if you're a creator, then you know that that person is who they say they are. What we're doing is if you're not verified, then you're never going to trend. You're never going to be recommended. Your comments are going to be, weeded out to where you have to click, read more to see all the rest of the comments. If you're sending messages or DMs, there's going to be a separate tab for unverified accounts. And the main reason for that is we're trying to render the bots and the anonymous accounts useless. And this is also a way that we're able to get into the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store by still being a free speech social media platform. Because that's another hurdle that we had to jump through, and that's why we came out with the website version first, and it took us longer to deal with the app, is because we're trying to figure out how do we get on there without going down the route of Gab and getting kicked off, or getting Parler and getting kicked off. So what we realized is that more than 95% of the quote unquote hateful content that Apple and Google and Amazon would not want on within their ecosystem, those are all done by anonymous accounts or bots. So if you go over to Gab has some horrible rhetoric over there. That's where the Nazis hang out. That's where the KKK guys hang out. That's where the whole deal. Very few of those accounts outside of Nick Fuentes himself actually have their name and picture on there. So they may have a check mark because they're paying Gab, $15 a month or whatever it is, but they've got their Nazi logo up there and a weird random name that doesn't mean anything, and then they're posting all sorts of awful content on there. And for me, it's like, I'm not going to ban content. I'm not going to censor content as long as it's legal. Like, you have an awful opinion, you're allowed to say it on PickAx. But if you actually want to be seen, if you actually want to get a big account, if you actually want to, deal with all that, you need to be verified. So now there's a little bit of accountability to where, you can't just hide behind a keyboard and then put out all sorts of awful rhetoric and then not actually be accountable for it. But then also, we're not allowing the bots to do the same thing, because a lot of the really bad stuff and the bad conspiracy theories and the rhetoric and the propaganda and all that kind of stuff are coming from bot farms that take over these social media platforms, and or they will impact, let's say, a particular person's ability to trend, because they'll just flood somebody's account, post a bunch of comments and all that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to weed out all of that kind of stuff and then make it as human-centered as possible. So when you think about it, by going this route, and as we further implement a lot of these kinds of restrictions from that standpoint, is that there's going to be no point to having a bot farm on PickAx, because it won't make any difference. Yeah. You can post, nobody's going to see it. Okay, great. Who cares? So there's not a motivation to do it in the same way that there would be on X. So that's really what's behind our verification process.
Yeah, I mean, how else are they supposed to do it though, Red? I mean, you have to have some kind of verifiable ID in order to, be shown. But as far as I understand, right, you guys delete anything after someone's been verified. You delete it and that's it.
Yeah. So like literally, so somebody you upload your ID, and then what we do is we are looking at a couple things. We're looking at your name to make sure it either matches your name, or we'll look at like if at the URL in your on your account, and look at does it take you to Rumble? Do you have a Rumble streaming account? Do you have a website? All that kind of stuff. We'll verify that way. But the other reason why we need an ID is to be on PickAx, you have to be at least 18 years old. And so, you verify that you're at least 18, and then verify you're a U.S. citizen. And a lot of that is because there's a lot of laws in Canada and the United Kingdom and these other countries and Australia where they're severely restricting speech. And then they would not only hold the platforms accountable, but they would also hold the people. Like, people are getting arrested in some of these countries for the things they're saying on social. And so for right now, it's like, I want to be in those countries because I want to bring a free speech platform to those countries, but I've got to figure out the logistics of that. And if we start verifying accounts that are in those places, now we're basically signaling to those governments, hey, no, we're doing business in your country. And then now we're going to face, ramifications and restrictions and regulations that we have to figure out how to deal with. And then the other component is that our verification system is deeply tied with the creator verification system, right? And so if you're verified, that means that you're a U.S. citizen, which then means now you open yourself up to apply to be a content creator on the platform, which opens you up to monetization and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole other hurdle that we have to deal with international payments and processing and like all that kind of stuff. So right now we're US based. So the main things we're looking at is name. Are you based in the US? Are you at least 18 years old? Then we either verify or deny. And if we deny, we'll give you an explanation as to why it was denied. Nice. So that way you can come back and say, well, here's this information or whatever it is. And then it automatically delete the photos from our system. So that's kind of the process.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I know some people, Equestrian Wild says, as someone who's had my work doxed by trans activists, I will never give my identity away again on a platform. And that's understandable. I think to each his own, but I also think that what PickAx is trying to do to protect everybody's, privacy and to be able to verify that people are who they say they are. Because if you guys have never seen those bot farm videos, it's really quite incredible. They literally have just rows of phones and they're going through all of them and they're, and so that's how they control the narrative. And you have like the CCP and stuff like that that's really heavily involved in trying to create and to push a narrative forward, which makes them look better and to be basically dominant on the world scene. But I think the way that you guys are handling it, I appreciate that. And I think going forward, I think it's going to make a big difference. And of course, if you look at like getting into the UK, which they're right now about ready to go after X because people are able to post stuff on there supposedly anonymously.
Yeah.
And the UK government's all up in arms because, you can't say men can't have babies and stuff like that. They come and arrest you, but you can go and rape a 12-year-old girl and you get off scot-free. You can do it 5 or 6, 7 times. No problem. He just doesn't know any better because he's from another country, kind of BS. Now, and to say all that, we do have another question here. Actually, more like a statement too as well. Half Pine Forge Live wants to know is like, are you still on the left coast? How are you speaking online without a thinking license, a white privilege waiver, and the various pronoun mafia permits? You would like to know that.
Yes, I am out here in the left coast, and it's interesting too because I'm trying to figure out like, okay, how do we, number one, we got to save California because like California, what happens in California is going to spread to the rest of the country. So it starts here and then it spreads. That's basically what happens. So it seems like all the good people have left. To be honest, like literally, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, okay, we've got Eric Swalwell that's probably going to be the next governor of the state of California, and none of the Republicans have a chance. And all the good guys have basically left the state. And I literally went through all the people that I can think of, and they have all left. They're all residents of other states. And I'm like, we've got to figure something out here. So my thing that I've often said is that we're going to stay out here in California, keep fighting the good fight and all that kind of stuff. The one thing will be if they take away parental rights, and there starts to be an attack on that. And I've said this, and I've told my wife too. I'm like, if that happens, and they've done it in a different ways, but we've kind of insulated ourselves from that with what doctors we go to, and we're homeschooling and like all that kind of stuff. But like if they start really cracking down on certain things, then we'd be forced to leave. But otherwise, like we love California. We're kind of like in a little conservative bubble in our part of the state, and it's like we might as well keep fighting where the battle is raging until we can't fight it anymore.
Yeah, and I think and that's I'll give you props for that. My wife and I, we originally from the San Diego area, and so that whole thing with gay marriages that was kind of raging at the time. And watching what they did in Sacramento, I knew the writing was on the wall. I knew it at that point that, this is not a place I want to be because they weren't abiding by what the people voted in. They weren't abiding by what was written into the state constitution. Right. They just decided they were going to do things on their own, regardless of what, the people that they supposedly represented wanted of their government. So we took off and we came to Texas. We've been here ever since. But of course, now that we have Round Table Pizza here and we have In-N-Out, I don't ever have to go back, just to let everybody know, other than maybe the beaches. Yeah. Because the beaches here in Texas, I don't know if you've ever been to like Corpus Christi or any of the beaches here, but they're not beaches, dude. It's like, I literally think it's like the toilet bowl of America and Mexico, because that's what it feels like. The water's like 85, 90 degrees. It's like super shallow. There's like no waves. You get mosquitoes at the beach, which is freaking unheard of to me. You also get rattlesnakes at the beach too, which is just unfreaking believable, But I appreciate that you're going to be there, and hopefully, I mean, I hope that you guys are going to be able to kind of turn it around, and kind of get out of that whole crazy mindset where it feels like the inmates are running the insane asylum there in California almost.
No, it's true, and I think the thing is that there's obviously Democrats outweigh Republicans in the state. It's not as blue of a state as everybody makes it out to be. It's just because percentage wise there is a higher percentage of Democrats. Like what most people don't realize is that California has more Republicans than any other state in the country. Like that's the reality. It's just we have so many people here that we've got more Democrats. But the thing is that it's much more of a purple state. We've got a lot of independents out here. The problem is that they're typically center left, and so a lot of them, they don't like Newsom. They don't like Eric Swalwell. They don't like the Democrats. But because they're still watching mainstream media and they're still watching all of that, they're more terrified of Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans and all that kind of stuff. And so they'll never lead the Democrats to vote Republican, even though they abhor Gavin Newsom. I can't tell you how many people that I know out here.
It's crazy to me though.
But think about this. Like during the recall of Gavin Newsom, I was talking to a lot of people. The majority of my Democrat friends wanted to get rid of Gavin Newsom. The problem was Larry Elder got in the race, and that if they recalled Gavin Newsom, Larry Elder would be the next governor of the state of California. And they were told by the mainstream media that Larry Elder is basically Donald Trump in blackface, is basically the pitch that they made to everybody. And so what ended up happening is they're terrified of Trump because, Trump derangement syndrome and all that kind of stuff. So they would rather, even though they abhor Gavin Newsom, they would rather stay with Newsom and keep him in office than allow Larry Elder or Donald Trump's representative to run the state of California. So it's like the only way that we can actually turn things around is not to go more MAGA, is not to go more Republican, but to actually go with somebody who's not Republican, probably center of the road, independent, that can pull from both Democrats and Republicans, that just is common sense. And the thing is that most people forget about California. We don't have Republican primaries for governor. We have jungle primaries. So it's just whoever's running, the top two people win the primary, and then they go to the general election. So it doesn't really matter what your political party is. But we keep going into these two-party things, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. You just need somebody that can pull Democrats or Republicans, and then they'll be the ones that win.
Yeah, I know. Life Search app says there you also have to worry about the social consequences of voting for the correct person. Your friends would leave you. And that's, unfortunately, that's kind of like a sad state of affairs nowadays where it's, that way, like Jeff and I were talking beforehand, it used to be that you could have differences of opinion, growing up in the 80s and 90s, like you didn't have all this social media platform stuff. You didn't have, all these things to worry about. You could just be who you wanted to be, and your neighbors could still be friends, even though if they voted for a Democrat, which shame on you, but, we're just throwing it out there. That, the nation has just changed. And I think it's kind of crazy. Like I think to myself, because there's some good documentary series out there, like gosh, what is the name? There's one about communism in America, like Grinding America Down, which is really good back in the early 2000s. If nobody has seen that, I think I shared that with you maybe.
Yeah.
But it just basically kind of shows, like when I was in school, a lot of the stuff that they taught was basically reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? And then somewhere after I got out, all this other ideology started to kind of come in and kind of filter into the schools. But the socialists and stuff like that they play the long game while we kind of play the short game.
Right.
And so that makes it really difficult. Now, with your company and stuff like that, and with PickAx, are you like, incorporated in California? Did you do it into another state? I mean, I know it's kind of a weird question, but how did you kind of set up the back end to kind of protect yourself?
Yeah, we incorporated in Delaware, like most
everybody does.
Do. But it's still, you still have to deal with California, especially with a lot of the rules and regulations. Luckily, so most of the restrictions that they're putting onto social media platforms, because like they're passing laws and regulations that like require social media platforms to moderate content and then provide reports to the state and get approval for your processes and all that kind of stuff. Luckily, like you don't have to play by those rules until you reach a certain threshold of either users or revenue or, things like that. So we can kind of fly under the radar, at least for now. But at a certain point, there will be a fight that we'll have to wage, probably legally, once we get up to a certain threshold, to really confront a lot of these kinds of things. Because I'm not going to play those games. We are adhering to the United States Constitution.
Hmm.
One of the things that I was talking with to my dev team about was that, because like you can report a post, if you feel like it violates our terms of service and whatever it is. But one of the pop-ups that I want to have, if you report a post and you want us to take it down, is I want you to signify or to check a box that says that you have read the United States Constitution and the First Amendment, and that this violates the Constitution. So it's like a reminder of like, this is free speech. Just because you don't like something, or even if it's hateful or whatever it is, as long as you're not calling for violence, you're not, coordinating terrorist attacks, and you're not, phishing or whatever it is, it's like you're kind of allowed to say it. So guess what you could do? You could either ignore them, you could
Hmm.
block them, you could unfollow them, or you could give them a better argument. I feel like that's a better way to go, but I know at a certain point we'll have to have that fight with states like California and New York and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how all that progresses in the future.
Yeah, I think because even I'm watching like New York mayor of New York City, the new socialist mayor that got in there. I'm like, I'm anxious to see it. Now, if they can basically get him one term and then out, I think we'll be okay. If they keep him more than that, then I think we have a real problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does feel not only just in regular life, but in social media circumstances and being online, that we're kind of like at that crossroads here in the States. We're either going to go down the route of choosing freedom and to allow people to have kind of like their space and to do what they want to do, or we're going to totally shift and make this whole thing into like a communistic kind of, socialistic paradise, where it's no longer, as the mayor says, no longer about the individual. It's about the collective as a whole, which is freaking crazy.
Here's the problem though, and this is like, it used to, so the reason why Donald Trump won in 2015, 2016 was because he was talking to the people where they were, right? So
Mhm.
he was talking about the problems that we were facing. And in a way that Republicans and even Democrats wouldn't do. That, they would look at their pet policies and their 68-point plan to fix illegal immigration that they'll never actually implement, and then Trump walks in and is like, we'll build a wall and deport them. Like it's simple, right? But he was talking about like things like corruption and the economy and like all that kind of stuff in talking to people in what they wanted to hear. It's like bring jobs back,
Yeah.
raise your all that. The problem is that now the people that are talking to people about the issues that they're facing are the far left extremists. It is the Bernie Sanders. It is
Mhm.
the mayor of New York. It is those kinds of people. Like I've found myself as of late agreeing with Bernie Sanders on a lot of what he's talking about when it comes to artificial intelligence and the direction that it's going. Like if you listen to his rhetoric, he is spot on up until the point he comes in with his government solution to fixing the problem.
Yeah.
But he's talking about an issue that a lot of people are concerned about, that the Trump administration is fast tracking and the Republicans don't want to talk about because they don't want to cross Elon
Mhm.
Musk and they don't want to cross Donald Trump. But Bernie Sanders I think Bernie Sanders and probably Thomas Massey are the two people that are talking about the threat of artificial intelligence on our jobs, on our livelihoods, on
Mhm.
our individual sovereignty, and all that kind of stuff in a way that nobody else is talking about. And I think that the reason why you had the mayor of New York, who it is not because he's a communist, and it's not because he's an Islamist. It's because he's talking about the real world issues that people are facing. Now, I disagree with his solutions for sure, 100%. But when nobody else is talking about the skyrocketing, prices, home
Mhm.
prices, and the fact that nobody can afford to actually live there, like I get why people voted for. We're I can't vote for somebody else who is just going to continue to be the same old, same old. We might as well just burn the whole system down and see if we can't actually lower home prices.
It kind of does feel like that we're kind of getting to that point, which is that's why I kind of like what you guys are also doing in terms for the creator side of things, right? If you would do me a favor and kind of fill everybody in, I got to step away for just like literally 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But fill everybody in on the creator program, what you guys are doing at PickAx, what makes it different, and what's kind of like the future of it and kind of the goal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, would love to. Yeah. So like with us, we actually hired Pudge to come over, and he's our director of creator success. And so he and I have been brainstorming a lot, and we're gonna roll out a lot of the implementations of the creator program here in the next couple of months, which is gonna be a lot of fun. But really, what we're doing with the creator program is you're gonna have a lot of monetization opportunities. So we're gonna be doing a rev share. So we're gonna take at launch, we're gonna take 40% of the advertising revenue that we bring in as a platform, and then we're gonna divide it up amongst our content creators. But it's gonna be based upon certain metrics, and it's gonna be kind of spread out to where you can't just hijack the system by posting clickbait posts, right? So a percentage of the revenue that would come from the advertising rev share will come from post views. A percentage of it will come from engagement. A percentage of it will come from article views. A percentage of it will come based upon the number of followers you have. So then that way you have to be well-rounded and kind of do everything if you want to make the most money, as opposed to it just being all based on post views or engagement or something like that. So then that way we kind of make it to where it's fair. And if you're great at writing, you want to focus on that, that's great. You're going to earn your percentage based upon that that cut of the rev share. So that's kind of what we'd have. We're going to continue to expand that and all of that. We also have affiliate advertising that we're rolling out as well, where you can actually sign up with some of our partner companies to be an affiliate for them. You could promote their products on your shows, but then also any ads that are shown on PickAx for those brands that are our affiliate partners that you sign up for, and you're an affiliate for them. We'll actually put your specific tracking link there within the ad that's showing on your content and your own unique promo code. So then that way, if somebody is reading your article or looking at your post, and then they click on the ad that's right there corresponding with your article, it'll take there. You get full commission of full credit for that sale. Plus, you can promote it on your shows. You can do all that kind of stuff, and so that's a really cool thing that a lot of people are getting really excited about as well. We've also got paid subscriptions where you can put up a paywall. You can put things behind a paywall. We're going to expand that. Right now it's just for articles, but you'll be able to do that eventually with Rumble videos. You'll eventually be able to do that with having your own unique like message group or posts and different things like that. One of the really cool things that I'm really excited about that Pudge and I are working on is he's really taken this on a lot, is have kind of a mentorship program for content creators. And to where we're going to take the more experienced creators that are on the platform, and we'll take them and have them actually mentor and teach and train the newer creators on how to perfect your craft. And it's not specific to PickAx. It's just, how do you get better at what you do? Because we want to see the best possible creators and help people to thrive, help people to take it to the next level, begin to earn more revenue, begin to get better at their craft in whatever industry you might find yourself in. And so we're going to kind of, we've got a really cool mentorship program that he's putting together. We're going to begin to do some, virtual, Q&As and sessions and trainings and all that kind of stuff for our creators on how to use PickAx to its full capability. How do you become a better journalist? How do you become a better live streamer? How do we integrate Rumble more effectively? The whole deal. And then starting in the probably quarter 3 or quarter 4, we're going to begin to launch a biannual creator summit. And we'll have some announcement coming out very soon about that. But what we're going to do, we're going to do 2 a year, one West Coast and one East Coast, and then maybe every now and then we'll do something right there in the middle, probably in Texas or something like that.
You better, dude. I want to be able to show up there. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But, you can kind of pick either one. It's about the same distance.
Yeah,
East Coast, West Coast. But the fun thing with that will be, we'll get all the creators together in one place. And then we'll have, we'll bring in some speakers. We'll have some breakout sessions, trainings. You'll be able to network. We'll bring in the brands that are our advertisers, and then now you can work on getting brand deals and sponsorships and affiliates, and you can begin to. We'll kind of like bring together this community of creators and brands and advertisers and all of that. When with the executive team and all that, and we'll kind of create this community to where, number one, we've all got each other's backs. We're all supportive. But then also the other side of it is like, you can get better at what you do, learn tricks of the trade, learn how to perfect your craft, learn how to do all that kind of stuff. And so we're focusing a lot on on really hands-on training and teaching and developing. And so that's something that I think I'm really excited to see, Pudge really take
Mhm.
on. And it's going to be a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I've been picking his brain. I've been like, Pudge, you got to tell me what's up. He's like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, just tell me. He's like, no, I'm not going to tell you. But Damsis, I can for sure tell you that partying and hanging out with Jeff is a lot of fun. Both him, Chavez too, as well. We spent a lot of time at DreamHacks together. Probably talked for what, like 5-6 hours. We were hanging out there for quite a long time.
Yep.
And it was great. But yeah, exactly. Like Sir Jeff, he says you'll learn tools of the trade. Exactly. That's kind of like why we do the show, right? We kind of have people on that are in different aspects of content creation because there's a whole slew of ways that content is created, right?
Yeah.
Podcasting, live gaming, movies, online shows, all those kind of things are basically content creation. You're creating something out of nothing and putting it out there. And so that's why it's kind of important, I think, for us to have a show like this to be able to do that. But that's really awesome. Now, have you always kind of had like the creator focus, or was there like a point where you were kind of building PickAx and you were like, we really kind of got to have to go this route that kind of shifted your focus towards the creator?
Well, I think when I first started, it was somewhat creator focused, but it was just kind of like how do we have a free speech platform where we're not going to be censored, right? And then it's just how do we kind of piece that all together? And then I started looking at like the way that the algorithms work and the way that the monetization works on all these social media platforms. It's severely harming content creators, and not just, and for me, like I come out of the political world, right? So conservatives are always crying censorship and shadow banning, but this is happening across the board, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, it doesn't matter what platform you're in. These restrictions are happening across the board for a variety of reasons, whether it's advertising, whether it's the byproduct of elevating recognized sources or respected sources or whatever it is. And so it's like I saw an opportunity there where it's like, why don't we just lean very heavily into helping content creators to thrive on a social media platform, because that's not really a thing. Yes, there are content creators that thrive on some of these platforms. But what about the little guy? What about the new guy? What about the mid-level, creator? Because when you think about it, if you're on X, right? X has this pretty closed ecosystem. And so what ends up happening is if you post your Rumble video on X, then you get demoted in the algorithm. That's just a fact. If you have a company that is sponsoring you to promote their product, right? And so you go onto X or Instagram or Facebook and you post a link with your promo code and whatever it is, you get demoted in the algorithm. So your content doesn't get seen. Your opportunities to monetize your content doesn't get seen because they only want you to make their pennies on the dollar of rev share or whatever it is to keep you on their platform. So we ended up taking the complete opposite approach of like, nobody gets demoted in the algorithms. You're allowed to promote whatever you want to promote. If you want to send people to your website, great. If you want to send people to Rumble, great. We're going to do the Rumble integration. We're going to incentivize very heavily, within our platform, within our ecosystem for sure to try to keep you on the platform. But I'm not going to penalize you or punish you for sending people off because you've got to be able to, pay your bills. You've got to be able to generate revenue. The other interesting thing too is that if you look at, I believe with the numbers that I was looking at, that what Elon does with X is he takes about $5 million a month, and then that's what's divided amongst all the creators for their rev share that's on the platform. So it's basically like an arbitrary number that they take and they divide it amongst everybody. So like whereas with us, we're taking 40%. Eventually that'll drop down to 30% as we grow, but we're gonna take a flat percentage. So our success will dictate more revenue that's going to go to the content creators. And so it's going to be percentage based. So that's going to be factored into our business model and, and revenue and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you have the opportunity that you help us build. That's going to have a direct impact on your ability to earn revenue. So the more people that we have means more advertising that we can sell, which means more money in your pocket. Like now you're incentivized to actually help us build this platform and make it the best possible platform that we can, because we're going to reward you through our revenue share program and all the different ways that we're going to implement for revenue. And so it's to me, it just became this natural progression as I'm seeing the industry and I'm seeing the way these platforms are, and then I'm seeing an opportunity to actually lean in to help people like, like the people that have my job that I've had for, since 2020, content creating. So it's been really interesting kind of even just seeing the morph of PickAx as time goes on and how it's been, I think, even more perfected.
Yeah, I think that, I think that's a great view and a way to kind of focus on it because, live search app says YouTube has changed the search page, X has changed the algo. And they have. They've changed stuff so much. I mean, you look at what YouTube has done, right? The biggest hypocrisy that is YouTube that is out there in the social media space, in my opinion. One, you can't be monetized, right? They demonetize you, but yet they're still serving ads on your content and they're still making money. Tell me how that's not ironic.
Yep.
Number two, they had 2025 was the year of AI that just went in and axed millions of accounts off YouTube. I mean, it's all over.
Yep.
And so there's this whole thing of now where creators are losing their whole entire livelihood because a platform just decides, and the new president of YouTube's come out and said that they're focused on using AI to create content now for YouTube rather than the human creator. They make more money that way. They pay less out, and they can control whatever narrative they want to spin and push. And Google having that total monopoly of where YouTube is installed in everything that goes out with their Android software. It's like, geez Louise, they're kind of like the juggernaut, really. But I think that's going to change eventually. Do you see kind of people kind of pushing off AI more, or how do you kind of see the future landscape with social media being so much of it relying heavily on AI, like probably like X and Grok and stuff like that, and YouTube, and where PickAx you're not?
Yeah. So the majority of people are going hardcore into the AI realm, and I'm very concerned by that for a variety of reasons. And I'm not one of those guys that's like never use AI and it's only bad. And I always say that on the micro level, AI can be very good for a variety of things. It can help, solopreneurs. It can help people that with small businesses. It's like, I use it to like edit my content because I type really fast and I write and I'm like, I need to make sure my grammar's right on this one if I'm putting out an op-ed or something like that. So I'll use it for like grammar and, spell check and like all that kind of stuff. But it on the macro level, that's where my concern is, because where is AI taking us? That's the problem. So AI on a big level is ultimately, if you listen to Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Sam Altman, is going to replace all of our jobs. It's going to be an AI driven world and nobody's going to work and we're all going to be on universal basic income. That's basically what they're pitching to us.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They basically described the movie WALL-E that Pixar put out several years ago. But that is a concern. Also, another concern is that it's taking away people's creativity. It's taking away people's critical thinking skills. You no longer have to think through anything yourself because the AI will do it for you. That's a problem. That's stunting our development. That's why I caution everybody: never let your kids around AI. Never, keep your kids off of screens as much as you possibly can, because what's happening is it's taking away their ability to learn and to critically think and to develop, because it's doing it for them. So that's a concern. So when I'm looking at, you look at X, they're leaning very heavily into AI. They're rolling out AI companions, so you can have a friend that's that you can talk to that will basically tell you whatever you want to hear. Like you said, Google is leaning heavily into AI generated content. Meta is doing the same thing. They're investing $65 billion to develop artificial intelligence specifically for the purpose of having AI generated content creators. Their end game is to eliminate the need to have human content creators, and where the humans become the consumers, AI becomes the creators. And then guess what? Mark Zuckerberg recently was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be like Elon. We're gonna start being free speech." Well, yeah, because you're gonna control all the content.
Yep.
So you don't actually have to censor anybody because you control the content of what's going out there, which means you keep all of your advertisers happy. You have your own Overton window. Of course, you don't have to censor your own artificial intelligence because you put out the parameters that the AI is allowed to talk about. And so that is a problem. And so like with PickAx, I'm going the exact opposite way. Yes, I get some people like, "Jeff, you're a hypocrite because you use AI in your platform." Well, yeah, I use AI to make sure that we don't have pornography that's posted on the platform. So if you post a photo, I have an AI program that will scan the photo and make sure that it's not something explicit and and all of that. And everybody's like, well, how can you be free speech and ban pornography? Well, you're not allowed to go down to your local town square and take off all your clothes and have sex in the middle of your city. So why do I have to allow it in my digital town square? So it's like, okay, cool. So we're working through that. But like, I don't want everybody just posting chatbot answers. I don't want everybody just, I want to hear what you have to say. I want your opinion. I want your thoughts. I want to lead very heavily and have a space that's for human beings, not just a bunch of robots talking to each other.
Yeah, I know. And this is a funny story too, as well, you guys. When I first joined PickAx, I don't know if you remember this, Jeff, but we have RUM-Bot, which is, of course, our software that you guys use here on Rumble for your alerts and stuff like that. We got the RUM-Bot right now in chat, talking it up. And so I was like, hey, I wanted to get this account verified. He goes like, we don't verify bots. I was like, yeah, I get it. I understand. So eventually maybe something kind of, have you thought about, how you're going to deal with like brands and stuff like that on the platform? Are they going to be able to get like, special verification? I mean, how are you guys going to approach that?
Yeah, so right now we're allowing like companies and brands and like streamers and like all that kind of stuff to get verified. As long as we can verify the location, we could and we'll probably get RUM-Bot like verified and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. The what I'm probably going to eventually do is we'll have a different color check mark for like brands, and then we'll have a different color check mark for certain things like a tool like RUM-Bot or something like that, to where that's the actual one, but also that it's not maybe an actual person that's writing the content, right? So that way there's some kind of delineation there, because like again, I want transparency, and I want to lean more heavily onto the human content, but also there are certain values for a variety of different kind of like technologies and things like that to be implemented. We just have to be super careful that it doesn't get hijacked by the bots that are taking over, X, because like I think it's something like somewhere between 60 to 80% of all the engagement on X is bots. And it's like I want to talk to humans. I don't want to talk to an AI robot. So it's one of those things where it's like we have to figure out the game plan and the implementation of it in a way that it doesn't get hijacked and then just become another X.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. And we did have a question from John Smith. He wants to know, which cloud provider do you use as a company?
Yeah, so we started off on Rumble Cloud, and then their capabilities are not up to speed for the kind of thing that we'd want. Like, so if I was just doing a regular website, I would definitely be on Rumble Cloud. With what we need, it would take my team hundreds of extra hours in order to be on Rumble Cloud, just with their capabilities, and they know this. And we've had conversations with Rumble, and there's no hard feelings. And we're in conversations to try to come back over and see if there's a way to do it. I just right now it's not feasible with the kind of stuff. So right now we're over on AWS, primarily because like on AWS, we I can save having to shell out money to have hundreds of hours worth of stuff to manually do what AWS does for free. Luckily, I have an inside track with somebody high up at Amazon, to where I kind of would have the inside track on like, okay, is there a problem? Do we need to like deal with something appropriately and all that kind of stuff? But in all reality, talking to the guys at Amazon, like they're happy just with our verification system, because that will weed out a lot of the stuff that got Parler in trouble, and that will weed out a lot of the stuff that got Gab into trouble. However, I do have a contingency plan. So if something were to happen and we were to get kicked off or banned or whatever it is, I can flip a switch and we're back up using a different server and all that kind of stuff. So we do have a contingency plan in case. But the main reason we're not on Rumble Cloud is just their capabilities are not where we would need it to be, to not just have to spend a crap ton of money just to maintain it. I would rather spend the money on developing than just maintenance,
Yeah, no, trust me, I totally hear you on that, because that's kind of like with our bot too, as well. As we made the switch from the desktop. I mean, thankfully we did, because of everything that happened in December, but that's a whole other issue. You basically got to pick and choose your battles, and hopefully you can come back around to it and then kind of address it later and kind of get in there. And they are working hard behind the scenes at Rumble. I promise you they are. I've talked to some of them. So try not to give them too much of a hard time, ladies and gentlemen. Don't say like bad words and stuff like that. There's only so many things they can do, and so many people that work there.
Yeah.
Um,
And also too,
yeah.
and I've talked with the guys, I love the guys that are over there at
Yeah.
Rumble Cloud, like their dev team and their sales guy and everything, like out of, because I've dealt with a lot of the different departments in Rumble as I'm building PickAx, and my favorite team is the Rumble Cloud team. I just know, and this is for full transparency, this is just me looking from the outside in. This isn't anything that they're saying to me or anything like that. My guess is that from a development standpoint, they're limited because they're a public company. And I think that as a public company, and this is one of the things that I think we have to understand and we have to realize when we're dealing with a platform like Rumble. And because I know a lot of creators, and I've been, because I follow what a lot of you guys say on social media and all that. A lot of people are frustrated with Rumble for a variety of things, API, different developments and all that kind of stuff. The thing to give them a little bit of grace is understanding the infrastructure. They're a public company, which means they have to keep shareholders happy, which means that they need to keep they need to get people to buy their stocks. Why? Because then that gives them money and revenue in order to do further development and do new things and all that kind of stuff. But one of the bad ramifications of that is that you begin to make decisions technologically that will get you press, where you can do a press release where so that it's like they just came out with Rumble Wallet, which is great. It's something that I think is really needed in the industry, especially for creators and all of that. But that takes resources away from maybe perfecting Rumble Cloud or perfecting the Rumble algorithms or perfecting this, that, or the other thing. And so but a lot of that is because they're beholden to the shareholders. They have to keep the shareholders happy, right? They don't have to keep the small, and I know that they're trying to do what they can in order to work with the small creators and all that kind of stuff, but like they don't have to do that in order for them to sell shares and stock in their company. And so that's the unfortunate thing of dealing with a public company, is that they have to weigh between, yes, we want to perfect this and this and this, but also we are beholden to shareholders. We're beholden to our board. We have to make financial decisions, and which means maybe we need to focus on this bigger thing over here and allow some of these other things that it's not going to get us press. It's not going to get us notoriety. So that's going to have to be put onto the back burner. And that's just one of the problems and one of the frustrations of dealing with a public company, but also from their perspective, that being a public company, it gives them cash flow to be able to invest to develop things like Rumble Wallet. So it's kind of a give or take, that on one hand it's a frustration, on the other hand it's like a necessary evil, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things too we also have to realize here as well, and trust me, I've talked to Rumble. They've been good to work with. As long as you're respectful and stuff like that, they're more than happy to talk to you and stuff. Sometimes it takes them a couple of days to get back to you, and that's okay. Like what, Live Search app said, it goes, Rumble doesn't have as many employees as their competition. And that's true. That's 100% true. The other thing that you guys got to realize too, as well, so a lot of these other platforms have had a lot more years to kind of refine the process and to hire and bring people on that Rumble just doesn't have. And so they're getting there, and, and they are doing amazing things. Look, with what Chris Pavlovsky did over the last couple of days since Rumble Wallet came out, I will give him, I will tip my hat to him. He's gone, him and also the president of Tether. They went and they donated a bunch of crypto to people, different creators on the platform, which is phenomenal. A lot of my friends got tipped yesterday like $500.
Yeah,
they just come in, boom, $500 USDT, and then they're gone. And then it's like, and they're making a big impact, and they're showing creators that they do care about them. Yep. And ultimately, I believe Rumble does. They just sometimes. They have a weird way of looking at things that makes it kind of difficult. I still believe that on Rumble, they really need to have a developer portal. They really need to buckle down and do it. Give us the keys. Let us have a little powwow. Give us, a key and permission to look at what's going on under the systems there, so we can build the apps and stuff that's really going to propel the platform forward. And, again, we're coming up on the hour, and I really, really just want to tell you thank you, Jeff, because I know that you're a busy guy. I've been after him to try to sit down and have him on the show for feels like forever. Yeah. But, again, tell people more about PickAx. Tell them where they can find you. Tell them, sign up process, all that stuff. Give them all your details, please.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's always a blast talking to you and all that. But with PickAx, we're gonna be launching the app next month, and probably this week I'm gonna be making the official announcement on the actual date of when we're doing that. So right now we've got the beta app for both iOS and Android. If you guys are not on PickAx, you guys can sign up at pickax.com. Send me a DM and I'll hook you up with the beta app. Just let me know iOS or Android, and I'll get that set up for you. Not a problem. But it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think, this year, because we're gonna be launching the app in February. We're planning on being at several different events around the country. We're talking about going back to DreamHack again, doing some cool things at some different events. We're gonna begin to do some of our own events around the country as well. Get some of our top creators in a room. We can all hang out and maybe have a panel discussion, some Q&A, some stuff like that. Have a lot of fun. We're going to be doing that around the country as well. We're going to be doing our creator summits, coming up. We're going to start that Q4. Q3, we're going to be rolling out PickAx Plus, which will be a premium service, which will include the ability to send out email newsletters. It's going to be very similar to like a Substack, except it'll be, you can actually build an email list directly within a social media platform and then send out email newsletters and write articles and send it out the same way, kind of a thing. And that alone will open up a lot more monetization opportunities for our content creators as well, that we'll be announcing too. So that's another really cool feature that will be coming up. And then we're just going to try to find as many different ways as we can to support our creators, but then also find fun things that we can do, whether it's meetups, whether it's virtual events. Maybe we're talking to Pudge about maybe let's do like a gaming tournament, or just do different things that like other social media platforms aren't necessarily doing, and really cultivate a really cool community. And I'm getting a lot of commitments from a lot of people in a variety of industries that once we launch the app, they're all coming over and going to make PickAx their primary platform. Like we've got Children's Health Defense has been super supportive. They're going to be going gung ho. Vigilant Fox, who's got like 1 million some odd followers on X, he's coming over. Dr. Peter McCullough just said the other day he's setting up an account on PickAx. Like, we're getting a lot of really cool, really interesting people, because everybody's facing the same problem, whether you have a big account or a small account. They're facing the fact that their speech is not actually free because they're being artificially limited. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, let's just open things up. We create a really cool platform. You are the algorithm. It's not some AI robot. Literally you have direct impact on what gets seen on PickAx. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. When the app drops, it's going to be a blast. And then if you guys only saw my board for where we're going, like some of the stuff that we're going to be rolling out over the next several years is bonkers, and I think it's gonna change a lot of stuff. Whether it's getting into the music industry, getting into streaming, whether it's getting into some different side businesses that PickAx will develop technologically. There's a lot of really cool things that we've got coming down the pipeline. And just so you guys know, the way that I see PickAx is like right now, this is the basic version right now. This is just the starting point. This is our MVP version. This is just our infrastructure for where we're going to go. We're going to develop a lot of things over the next several years that will all flow back through PickAx. So PickAx is kind of that centralized hub, and then we'll have all these different arms that are going out that will all flow back through the social media that will be fully integrated into it. It's going to be really cool, and each one of those things that we develop is going to give you another opportunity to generate revenue. Like, for example, we're going to do the events, over this next year. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to open it up to our creators to actually help promote it. And then guess what? Maybe per ticket that's sold, you're going to earn $10. Like, awesome. That adds up really quick. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you promote and you get 10 ticket sales, you're going to earn $100. Like, that's not that much in order to generate revenue from that standpoint. So everything that we do, every single thing that we do that will generate PickAx revenue will generate our creators revenue. And so it's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of things in the work. It's a lot of work. I feel like I've got like 10 different jobs that I'm doing simultaneously. So, but it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing, right? Is that you have a great team around you that understands what your vision is and where you're going and what it is that you want to build out. And that's, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to do everything, but you got to have a great team.
Yep.
And that's why, like, of course we I announced it on PickAx. The one thing that is new that we're building in the background, and Mr. Kelly, if you're still in chat here, that we're doing here at RUM-Bot, to basically try to help facilitate people to get off of YouTube and over to Rumble, is we're going to be releasing something called RUM-Bot Sync, and so that will allow any YouTuber now to transfer all of their content from their YouTube channel over to their Rumble channel and make a switch, tell everybody, and then they can come over and keep going.
Yeah.
And so we'll be releasing that pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that like is on my board of things that we're going to roll out is I do want to build out like a developer portal and open it up to some verified people like yourself and a handful of others, where it's like, you guys can start creating tools that you guys want to see that would help with stuff. Because again, we can build the basic centralized infrastructure and then open it up to like you guys to be creative. Like, okay, but how can I integrate something into what PickAx has and then make it all work and make it all flow and all that kind of stuff. So, that one I think will be fun as well. And also too, like we can have a little bit more hands-on, fun, kind of brainstorming with developers and all that kind of stuff, and come up with some ideas where maybe we do a little bit, you do a little bit. Let's figure out how to meet in the middle and make things work.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole goal behind a developer portal, right?
Yeah,
is to make it to where you can reach out to the developer community, have them build tools that maybe you guys don't think of, or you guys don't have the infrastructure to make, and then you guys can control the keys of the kingdom, so to speak, through licensing and stuff like that. But yeah, so that'll be I'm going to be posting about that on social, you guys. That's gonna the tool that we've created, and really that Mr. Kelly has been spearheading, and he's part of the developer team now with RUM-Bot, is that it's done on user side. So YouTube won't be able to ban you. They won't be able to throttle you. Everything has happened locally on your computer.
Yeah.
And then it basically automatically gets posted up to your account. So we're basically, cutting out the issue that both Rumble and like places like Odyssey have, which as soon as YouTube finds out that you got a tool like that, they throttle the connection.
Yeah. Okay.
This way, that takes that out, and so it's going to be, I think, revolutionary. But Jeff, again, thank you so much for joining today on Tools of the Trade. Absolutely loved having you on, you guys. Jeff is an amazing guy. He's got such a freaking brain and how he thinks about things. I love picking his brain, literally picking, anyway, pickaxe kind of thing. But anyway, you guys, make sure you guys go and throw him a follow. His links are down below. Go check out his Rumble channel. Go check him out on PickAx and join us there on PickAx. It's going to be the social media platform of the future for sure. And anything else you want to say really quick before we get going, Jeff?
No, I mean, if you guys want, one of the things you guys can do on PickAx, if you go follow me over there, you guys can actually become like a subscriber, which signs up for my email list, and that's I'm beta testing out our email newsletter component. So if you become a subscriber to my channel or my account on PickAx, you guys will get my my articles and newsletters and all that kind of stuff sent to you via email, and we're gonna start rolling that out with beta with more creators that are on the platform. So stay tuned for that one, because I think that's gonna be, and I have a lot of people that ask me like, what's really gonna set you apart, and what's gonna be your biggest income stream and revenue, and it's like, the emails are going to be the biggest revenue stream, not just for PickAx, but for the creators. So stay tuned for that one, because like what we have planned with that one is going to be bonkers. But you guys can get all the updates and stuff if you subscribe on at my PickAx account. Just look up Jeff Dornik, become a subscriber, and then you guys get all my emails and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and if you guys don't want to do that, just click the link down below in the description. And also over in above chat right now, pinned is also a link to PickAx. So there's no excuse for you not to join us on PickAx. That's all I'm saying. So, and again, to my good friend, Mr. The Ray, I know he's out there at Disneyland with his family. I love you, brother. Hopefully you're having a great time. Celebrating his son's 13th birthday, I think, is what he's doing right now at Disneyland. So he's having a great time. But all the rest of you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for all your support. And we'll see you guys again next time right here on Tools of the Trade. All right, everybody? Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.